The message commander Rain sat in the pilot chair of his small scout ship. Drifting quietly through Sector 9, he had been alone for 6 weeks. Scanning dead planets, empty rocks, and cold stars, his mission was simple: explore unknown zones and report back to Earth Command. But this day, something strange happened. His ship's AI, named Echo, suddenly lit up. "Commander Rain," it said, "we have received a signal." Rain raised an eyebrow. "From who?" "There's nothing out here," Echo replied. "It is not from a ship or known station. It is a direct message from an uncharted planet origin, Greylith." Rain leaned forward. "Play the message." The screen blinked, then a soft shaking. Voice came through. It was a child, maybe 6 or 7 years old, speaking slowly in clear galactic common. "Please, human. My mom cries every night since Dad left. Will you be her new mate?" Rain blinked, confused. "What?" he whispered. The voice continued. "She says she's strong, but I know she is not. She misses him. I want her to smile again. Will you come?" The message ended, and silence filled the ship. Rain stared at the screen, unsure what he just heard. Echo said calmly, "This may be a cultural miscommunication." Rain nodded slowly. "Yeah, maybe it's a prank or a trap." But deep inside, something felt real. Hush! The sadness in the child's voice, the way they said please, it touched him. "Is the signal still active?" he asked. "Yes," Echo replied, "and it is repeating every 3 hours." Rain stood and looked out the front window. In the far distance, past a field of asteroids, was a glowing green planet covered in fog and energy readings. He tapped the controls, set course for Greylith. The ship jumped forward, passing through debris and electromagnetic waves as they got closer. Strange symbols appeared on the radar. Unknown language, unknown energy. Rain felt a chill run through his body. "This was not a normal planet," Echo warned. "The atmosphere is unstable, and there are no human records of this world." Rain replied, "Good. That means no rules." As the ship descended through thick green clouds, strange shapes moved in the mist. They looked like trees, but they pulsed with light. The sky flickered with soft blue lightning. But there was no thunder, only silence. Rain landed the ship gently on a flat surface that looked like soft stone but was warm like skin. He grabbed his helmet and stepped outside. The air smelled sweet and cold like frozen honey. His boots made no sound as he walked. Suddenly, from behind a glowing tree, a small figure stepped out. It was a child, but not human. Her skin was silver with blue lines running through it, like energy flowing under glass. Her eyes were large and full of light, and her voice was the same one from the message, "You came." She said, smiling, "I knew you would." Rain lowered his helmet. "Are you Leora?" She nodded. "Yes, I am Leora. This is my home." He looked around. "Where's your mother?" Laura pointed behind her. "She waits, but she is afraid. She doesn't want to hurt again." Rain followed the child through the mist. Deeper into the forest, the trees hummed softly, and strange creatures watched from the shadows, but none attacked. Finally, they reached a small home built into a hill. The door opened on its own, and inside stood a tall figure, elegant, glowing, and calm. Mara, Laura's mother, looked like light shaped into form. Her voice was soft and deep. "You heard my daughter's call?" Rain nodded. "Yes. But I don't understand why." Mara looked down, then met his eyes. "My mate is gone. The storm took him many moons ago. I waited, but he did not return." Rain said nothing. He could feel her pain without words. Laura ran to her mother and held her hand. "She says she is strong, but she cries every night," Laura whispered. "I want her to be happy. And I thought humans are kind, they help." Rain looked at them both. He felt like he had walked into someone else's dream. He wasn't here to become anyone's mate, but he couldn't ignore their sadness either. Echo's voice came through. "The earpiece, Commander. There are strange energy readings nearby." "We are not alone here." Rain looked out the window, into the mist. A shadow moved, tall and slow, just beyond the trees. He narrowed his eyes. Maybe the father wasn't gone. Maybe he was still here, lost, hidden, or taken. The mystery had only just begun, and Rain was already in too deep to turn back. Commander Rain followed Laura deeper into the glowing forest. The ground beneath him felt soft, like sand and skin mixed together. Every tree hummed with light, and some even bent slightly as he walked past, as if watching him. It wasn't just a forest. It was alive, not with animals, but with memory. The sky above was covered in green mist, swirling like it had a mind of its own. Small orbs floated gently through the air. Not insects, not machines, just ... something. Unknown. Rain kept his helmet on, but Echo's voice whispered through the earpiece. "Warning, emotional field detected. This planet may affect thoughts and memories." He frowned. How can a planet affect feelings? Echo responded, "Unknown. Proceed with caution." Laura looked back and smiled. "Growlithe feels everything. It remembers pain, joy, love. It remembers you." Rain's heart beat a little faster. He hadn't told her anything, yet she spoke. Like she knew him, he kept walking, though his boots made no sound on the glowing soil. Soon they reached a strange structure, not built, but grown. The house was part of a giant tree. Its walls alive, its door shaped like petals of a closed flower. Laura touched the door, and it opened with a slow sigh. Inside, the air was warm and soft, like a memory of home. And there she stood, Mara. Our body shimmered like water in sunlight. Skin pale with faint blue lights under it. Her eyes were deep, glowing softly, and her voice felt like music made from wind. "You are welcome here." "Rain of Earth," she said. He nodded slowly. "You know my name," Mara smiled. "Growlithe told me, the planet listens. It speaks in feelings." Rain looked around the room, walls pulsing with faint colors. Blue for calm, red for sorrow, green for trust. The walls were green now. "I came because of Laura's message," he said, "but I didn't expect." This Mara sat down on a smooth stone that shaped itself into a seat. "I did not ask her to send it," she said gently, "but I do not blame her." Laura sat beside her mother, holding her hand. "She misses him every night," Laura said. "She dreams of the storm, the silence, the day he left." Rain lowered his helmet and sat across from them. He felt something strange, a warmth in his chest, not from the air, but from the room itself. It was like the place was scanning. His heart, not his body. "What happened to your mate?" he asked. Mara looked at the floor, her eyes dimming slightly. There was a storm, but not a normal one. It came with soundless winds and glowing rain. He went to help the roots of the forest, and never returned. Rain asked, "You never found him?" "We searched," Mara said, "but the forest changes when it grieves. It hides things, even people." Rain leaned forward. "You think he's still alive?" Laura's voice was quiet. "I saw him once, standing in the fog. But when I ran to him, he was gone." Rain felt the weight of their pain. He didn't come here to play family. But this wasn't about love. Not yet. This was about loss. And, maybe, hope. Echo whispered again. "Commander, magnetic signals rising. Possible memory interference." Rain ignored it. "This planet. It connects to minds." Mara nodded. "Yes, it shows dreams, memories, sometimes feelings not your own. It does not lie. But it may confuse." That night, Mara offered Rain a place to rest, a soft pod grown from the wall. Warm and shaped to his body, he hesitated, but accepted. As he lay back, the room dimmed. and the ceiling above shifted to show the stars not real, but alive in the wall. And then he dreamed, in the dream. He stood beside Mara at a lake of light. She looked happy, her hand in his. He heard laughter Laura's and saw a man in the distance, walking toward them, smiling. Rain sat up suddenly, breathing fast. The dream faded, but the feeling stayed. The next morning, he woke to find Laura already outside, playing with the floating orbs. Mara handed him a cup of clear liquid. "It will keep the memories away, if you wish." He drank it, then asked, "Why does the planet do this?" Mara looked out at the fog. Growlithe was once home to millions. They're all gone now, only the planet remembers. So it tries to keep what's left, memories, feelings, even pain. Rain stood beside her. "Then maybe it's keeping your mate too." Mara turned to him, her eyes filled with both fear and hope. "If that's true, would you help me find him?" Rain didn't answer yet. He looked into the fog beyond the trees, where shadows moved slowly. Something out there was watching something that didn't want to be found, and Rain knew his journey had only just begun. Rain stood near the edge of the forest, staring into the heavy green fog. The mist moved like it breathed, slow and alive. Somewhere out there, a father had disappeared, and maybe something was waiting. Behind him, Laura laughed as she chased a small orb of light. Mara watched quietly from the doorway, her hands resting in front of her, but Rain could feel it. The sadness behind her still smile. The weight in her silence. He turned back toward her. "Tell me more about him." Mara looked up, her eyes glowing softly in the morning light. "His name was Solon," she said. "He was calm, steady, always listening. He believed in the old ways, in harmony between our kind and the planet." Rain asked, "And you bonded for life?" Mara nodded. "Yes, it is how our people live. When we connect, our emotions merge, our thoughts are shared, our grief becomes one." Rain stepped closer. "So when he vanished, I lost half of myself," Mara whispered. "The bond didn't break, it faded, like a signal lost in space." Rain thought for a moment, then asked, "Can such a bond be made again?" Mara looked away. "Only if the old one truly ends. But if it lingers, the heart stays torn." He felt something strange then, like a whisper brushing the edge of his mind. Not a sound, not a voice, but a feeling, warm, gentle, curious. He looked at Mara. "Did you just send me a feeling?" She blinked slowly. "No, I didn't." Echo spoke in Rain's earpiece. "Commander. Bio-emotional link forming without physical contact. Recommend caution." Rain turned away, uneasy. This planet didn't just show emotions, it shared them. Later that day, Mara took him to Solon's garden, a circle of glowing plants near the lake. "This is where he worked," she said. "He grew memory plants. They store emotions like seeds." Rain touched one, a blue flower that pulsed when he neared. Suddenly, his mind flashed with a vision, Solon laughing, his hands dirty with soil, Mara smiling beside him. Then the vision vanished, like a dream cut short. "What was that?" Rain gasped. "A memory," Mara said gently, "planted here." Growing still, he stared at the garden. "So if we follow the strongest memories, we might find where he went." Mara nodded. "Yes, but be careful. Strong emotions attract the mist." That night, Rain stayed inside his pod. But sleep didn't come. Instead, the walls around him began to shimmer. He saw flashes, not from his own mind, but Mara's. She sat alone in the dark, staring out the window, whispering Solon's name, Laura asleep beside her. Clutching a glowing toy shaped like her father's hand, Rain turned in his pod, trying to block it out. But the bond was forming, piece by piece, memory by memory. In the morning, he walked alone into the fog, Echo tracked his path, marking every step. Soon, he reached the place where the storm had come. The forest floor was cracked, the air colder. Then he saw something strange. Marks burned into the trees. Not natural, not alien. Writing. Echo scanned them. Commander, these are not from this planet. Rain narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? Unknown origin, Echo said. Possibly ancient technology. Possibly intelligent interference. Suddenly, a sharp pain hit his head. Rain dropped to his knees as memories rushed into him. Not his, not Mara's. They were Solon's. He saw Solon running through the forest, chasing something bright, something calling him. Then, a shadow tall, shapeless, made of dark mist, appeared and pulled him into the earth. Rain gasped and opened his eyes. The fog was thicker now, curling around his body like fingers. He stood up and ran back to the village, heart racing. As he reached the edge, he saw Mara standing outside. Waiting for him? You saw it, she said quietly. Not asking, but knowing. Rain nodded. Something took him. Mara closed her eyes. Then the bond is not broken. He is not dead. Just lost. Rain looked at her. If we find him and bring him back, what happens to us? Mara's voice was barely a whisper. Then the bond will return to him, and I will fade from you. Rain didn't know what to say. He had only known these beings for a short time, but he felt like he belonged here, and yet he wasn't ready to take what wasn't his. That night, Lura sat beside him, holding his hand. Will you find my dad? She asked. Rain looked at her, then at the stars above. I'll try, he said. But we might find something more than just him, because deep inside, he knew this planet held more than memories. It held secrets, and some of them didn't want to be found. The fog had changed. It was thicker now, heavier, as if it was watching, listening, waiting. Commander Rain stood near the edge of Solon's garden, the ground pulsing faintly beneath his boots. The mist didn't just float anymore. It moved with purpose, crawling between trees, clinging to shapes. Mara stood behind him, her voice low and serious. You need to be careful here, she said. The shadows are not just illusions. They remember too. Rain looked into the swirling mist. I saw something out there yesterday, a tall figure, moving slow. Mara nodded, her face pale. Others have seen it too. Some say it's him. Some say it's the thing that took him. Rain checked his gear, scanner, tracker, emergency beacon. Echo's voice crackled through his earpiece. Energy patterns are unstable, Commander. Unknown life forms detected nearby. He stepped forward anyway. I need to see what's out there. He entered the fog, each step softer than the last. The trees around him bent away, almost afraid. The deeper he walked, the quieter the world became. No wind, no sounds, only the beating of his heart. Then he saw it again. A figure, tall, distant, standing perfectly still between two glowing trees. Rain raised his scanner. Echo, lock onto that shape. No life signs. Echo said, but reflective surface detected. Rain took a step closer. The figure turned its head slowly, and Rain froze. It looked like Solon, but not fully. The eyes were empty, glowing white, and its body flickered like it wasn't solid. Suddenly, it vanished, melting into the fog. Like water disappearing in sunlight, Rain spun around. Nothing. Then he heard it. A voice, soft and broken. Please, find me. It wasn't Echo, and it wasn't his mind. It came from the fog itself. Rain followed the sound deeper, the light from his suit growing weaker. He saw symbols glowing on the trees, the same marks from before, burned into the bark like scars. Then he found a cave, wide and dark, hidden behind thick roots. It pulsed with blue light, breathing like a giant creature. Inside, the air changed. Rain's vision blurred. And strange feelings rushed into his mind. Fear, hope, guilt, they weren't his. A wall of crystal stood in the center of the cave, and inside it, a shape curled up like it was sleeping. It looked like Solon. Rain reached out to touch the crystal. But his hand stopped in midair. A force pushed back, strong and cold. Echo screamed in his ear. Warning, brainwave interference detected. You are being linked, before he could pull away. The crystal glowed bright, and Rain was thrown into a memory. Not his. He stood in Solon's body, running through the forest, chasing Lure's laughter. Then, the storm. Sudden and silent, pulling him underground, dark mist surrounding him. Whispering promises, asking questions. Do you want to forget the pain? Do you want to sleep? Do you want to be free? Solon had answered yes. Rain was pulled back into his body, gasping, sweating. The crystal dimmed, but the shape inside twitched slightly. Solon wasn't dead. He was trapped in his own memory. Held by the planet or something deeper inside it, Rain stumbled out of the cave, falling into the fog. He didn't run, but walked fast, his breath shaking. When he reached the edge of the forest, Mara and Laura were waiting. Mara ran to him, grabbing his shoulders. You saw him? Rain nodded, still shaking. He's alive, but barely. The planet. Or something inside it has locked him in a dream. Laura's eyes filled with tears. Can we wake him? Rain looked at Mara, then at the forest behind him. I don't know yet, but if we try, the planet might fight back. That night, Rain stayed near the fire, in the center of the village. The fog didn't enter the circle of light, but it stayed close, just outside, watching. Mara sat beside him, silent. Laura curled up in her mother's arms, already asleep. Rain whispered, "There's something inside this world that doesn't want you to move on. It feeds on what you feel." Mara looked into the fire. Growlithe was once full of life. But the old minds wanted to protect emotions. They locked them deep in the planet. They thought it would bring peace. But now, it brings ghosts. Rain closed his eyes. He had come here as a scout, a wanderer. But now, he was part of a story written in mist and memory. And the only way out was through the fog. Through the shadows, through the dream. Rain couldn't sleep anymore. The fog outside the village no longer stayed quiet. Moved like it had found a voice, whispering thoughts that weren't his. Thoughts he didn't want to hear. He sat near the fire, but the warmth didn't calm him. Inside his head, something had changed. Mara approached with a bowl of clear liquid. "Drink this," she said softly. "It helps the mind stay quiet." For a while, Rain took it, but didn't drink. Instead, he asked, "Is it possible to feel someone else's thoughts before you ever speak to them?" Mara's eyes shimmered. "Yes, Growlithe has that power. But only when the bond is forming." Rain looked into the flames. "Last night, I dreamed. Not as myself, but as you," he said. "I saw Laura being born. I felt your joy, your fear, your love for Solon." Mara sat beside him, her voice like wind. "Then Growlithe has accepted you. You're becoming part of its memory." Rain shook his head slowly. "I didn't ask for this." She looked at him, calm but sad. "No one asks. It just happens. When the planet sees your heart." Suddenly, Echo's voice buzzed in his ear. "Commander. Unusual brainwave patterns detected. Your mind is syncing with local psychic fields." Rain stood up, pacing. "What does that even mean?" Echo replied, "You are sharing thoughts with the emotional core of the planet." Then something strange happened. The trees outside pulsed blue. The ground beneath the village shook gently, like a slow heartbeat, and Rain felt it again. A whisper, but this time it wasn't a memory. It was a question. "Why are you here?" Rain turned quickly, but no one had spoken. He whispered back, "To find Solon." The planet responded, not in words, but feelings. Sadness, hunger, longing. Rain gasped, stumbling backwards. Mara stood calmly. "It's speaking to you now." Rain blinked. "It's lonely." She nodded. "That's what happens when you become a world full of broken memories." He sat again, this time closer to her. "I saw Solon in the crystal. He's not dead, but lost in a loop. Like he keeps reliving the moment he was taken." Mara's voice dropped to a whisper. "The planet doesn't let go of pain easily. It keeps it, protects it, even feeds on it." Rain leaned in. "Then what if I go in? Not just into the cave, but into the link, into the memory." Mara looked sharply at him. "No one has done that. You could lose yourself," Rain replied. "But if I don't try, Solon stays trapped, and this place keeps hurting you, later." Inside his pod, Rain prepped for what he didn't fully understand. He placed memory crystals on his temples, devices used for recording dreams on long missions. Echo hesitated. "Commander, direct mind link with alien memory fields is dangerous. You may suffer permanent identity loss." Rain smiled slightly. "Guess we'll find out." He activated the link. The pod lights dimmed, the air cooled, and Rain fell into a dream, but it wasn't his. He stood again as Solon, beside Mara, years ago. The sky was clear. Laura had just been born. Joy filled the air like music. Then, shift, he was Solon again during the storm. The fog whispered sweet lies. "Let go, sleep. You are not needed." Rain felt Solon's mind fighting, weakening. Falling into stillness, suddenly, Rain broke free of the memory, but not fully. Now he stood in a gray space, like the inside of a cloud. Solon stood before him, not a body, but a shape of light and feeling. "Who are you?" Solon asked, his voice echoing like waves. Rain stepped forward. "I'm Rain. I came to bring you home." Solon's voice cracked. "There is no home, only memory." Rain reached out. "No. Lura waits for you. Mara still loves you. You are not forgotten." The gray space shook violently, cracks of light breaking the mist. The fog screamed in silence, trying to close the space. Rain yelled, "You have to remember who you are, not just the pain." Suddenly, Solon's form flickered, and the gray faded. They both fell into darkness. Rain awoke inside his pod, gasping for air. Sweat poured from his face. The memory crystals shattered. Echo buzzed. "Commander." Vital signs unstable, but consciousness restored. Outside, the fog was retreating, pulling away from the village. The planet had been touched. Changed. Rain walked out slowly and saw Mara and Laura waiting. They ran too. "Him," and he said only one thing. "I found him," Mara whispered. "Is he coming back?" Rain looked toward the cave. "Not yet," he said, "but he remembers." The planet had echoed, and the sound was growing louder. And somewhere deep in the roots of Growlithe, Solon had opened his eyes. Asterisk, the sky above Growlithe was no longer silent. Clouds moved faster now, charged with strange energy. The fog had thinned across the forest, but it wasn't gone. It circled the crystal cave like a wounded beast guarding its last treasure. Rain stood at the edge of the cliff overlooking the valley. The place where he had once seen shadows was now lit by beams of soft blue light shooting from the ground. The planet was changing. It had felt the memory break. Now, it was deciding what to do next. Behind him, Mara approached with Laura holding her hand. They had slept a little, and even from a distance, Rain could feel their anxiety, not fear of him, but fear of what the choice might cost. Mara placed her hand gently on his arm. "You connected to him," she said. "He remembers you, Rain." Nodded slowly. "Yes, but the planet is holding him tighter now. It's afraid of what?" she asked. "Of being forgotten," Rain replied. "It's using Solon to hold on to the pain. Because it doesn't want to be alone." Mara looked up at the glowing clouds. "Even a world can feel abandoned." Rain turned to her, voice low. "I think there's a way to bring him back," he said, "but it means making the planet let go." Mara frowned. "How?" Rain took a deep breath, "by offering it something stronger than pain. A new bond." She pulled her hand away slightly. "You mean ... with me?" Rain looked at her seriously. "If I accept the bond the planet is offering, if I replace Solon's place in your heart, the world may believe the old pain is over." Mara stepped back, her eyes flickering. "But that would break the bond forever," she said. "Solon would never find his way home. You would overwrite his connection." Rain nodded. "Yes." Lura looked up, her voice small. "So we have to choose." Rain knelt beside her. "Yes, sweet one," he said. "Either your dad stays lost and your mom begins again, or we try to bring him back and risk everything." Mara closed her eyes, pain clear on her face. "I can't choose between them," she whispered. "One is my past, one is my future." Rain stood, staring at the forest. "The planet is forcing the decision, not me," he said. "But maybe there's a third way." He turned to Echo. "Prepare the neural beacon." Echo responded. "Ready, Commander. Warning. Untested frequency. Direct broadcast into emotional core of planetary network." Rain walked to the center of the garden. Where Solon had planted memories, he placed the beacon down. Then attached a memory crystal to his own chest. "I'm going to give the planet something it's never had," he said. A shared decision. He activated the beacon, and light exploded in a slow, quiet wave. The ground pulsed like a heartbeat. And then, silence. Suddenly, Rain wasn't alone. He stood inside a sky of stars, surrounded by floating versions of himself, Mara, Solon, Laura, but all made of light. This was the heart of Grillith, the place where feelings became real. Voice echoed, not male, not female, just present. "Do you wish to forget?" Rain shouted back, "No." "Do you wish to replace?" He shook his head. "No. I wish to heal." The space trembled, cracks forming in the stars. "Then give what cannot be taken." Rain stepped forward, holding out the crystal from his chest. "I offer you this. Not love, not sorrow, but choice." The light flared too bright to see, and then vanished. Rain fell backward into his body. Gasping for air, Echo buzzed urgently. "Commander, pulse detected inside the crystal." Cave. Rain ran, followed by Mara and Lura, as they approached the entrance. The mist melted away like it was finally tired of fighting. Inside, the crystal that had held Solon was cracking. Glowing from within, Rain stepped closer, heart racing. Then a hand pushed through, followed by another. Solon stepped out slowly, eyes open, confused but breathing. His body was weak, but alive. Mara gasped, dropping to her knees. "Solon." He looked at her, blinking. "Mara, I was lost, but I heard you." "I heard him," he said, pointing at Rain, "and the world let me go." Rain stood quietly, giving space. Laura ran to her father, hugging him tight. Her tears sparkled in the air like stardust. Mara stood and met Rain's eyes. She wanted to speak, but couldn't. Rain gave a small smile. "I didn't take your bond. I just helped it find its way back," as he walked out of the cave. The forest bloomed with glowing petals. Growlithe was no longer holding grief. It was learning to release it. But deep in its roots, one question still remained. Can a world that remembers everything ever learn to forgive? Rain didn't know the answer, but he had made his choice. The world of Growlithe was breathing differently now. The fog no longer clung to the trees, no longer whispered lost memories. It drifted gently across the hills like a sigh finally released. Commander Rain stood near the edge of the crystal garden, watching the sunrise for the first time since he landed. It wasn't like Earth's sunrise. This one came in waves of color, each hue pulsing with a feeling. Blue for healing, gold for memory, violet for forgiveness. Behind him, the village stirred quietly. Laura was laughing, really laughing. Not a sound wrapped in sadness, but full joy. Solon had returned, not just in body, but in mind. He was quiet still, but his eyes were alive. Rain had stayed away from them since the awakening. He watched from distance, letting them rebuild what was once broken. He knew this was not his story to finish. Mara found him by the lake. Her steps were soft, and the mist parted around her like an old friend. "You're leaving soon," she said, not asking, but knowing. Rain nodded. "This world. It doesn't need me now." Mara sat beside him, her eyes calm. "You gave it something it didn't know it could have, the freedom to feel something new." Rain looked down at the water, where ripples danced without wind. The planet didn't want to be alone, he said. It trapped memories to keep from feeling forgotten. Mara touched the ground gently. Growlithe remembers everything, but sometimes it confuses memory with love. Rain turned to her. "And what about us?" She smiled, not with sorrow, but with peace. "You were a light in a moment of darkness. That light will stay with us." Rain stood, brushing dust from his suit. "I'll report this world to Earth Command. They'll probably send others." Mara tilted her head. "Will they listen like you did?" Rain smiled. "No. They'll scan and record and name everything, but they won't understand it." Mara reached into a pouch on her robe and pulled out a small stone, not glowing, not strange, just a plain, smooth rock. "This holds no memory," she said. "It is empty. Take it with you, in case your world ever forgets how to feel." Rain took it, feeling its warmth. He slipped it into his suit pocket without a word. Suddenly, Laura came running toward them, her arms full of glowing petals. She hugged Rain tightly, her voice muffled against his chest. "Please, human, don't forget us." Rain knelt, meeting her glowing eyes. "I couldn't forget if I tried." She smiled, then looked serious. "If you ever get sad, you can come back, okay?" He nodded. "Promise." Later, as his ship powered up, the forest sent soft waves of blue light into the sky. Not warning, not fear, but goodbye. Solon stood beside Mara and Laura, one hand on his daughter's shoulder, the other gently holding Mara's hand. They didn't speak as Rain entered the ship. They didn't need to, from the cockpit. He looked down at the planet one last time. It had changed him, deeper than anything Earth ever could. He had come as a scout, a soldier of stars. But he was leaving as something else, a keeper of feelings. Echo's voice broke the silence, course set for departure. Commander Rain paused, then added, "Mark this system, Growlithe Memory World, approach with heart." The ship lifted, slow and steady, as it broke through the clouds. Rain looked back at the surface and saw something unexpected. In the center of the village, the ground had formed words, glowing softly in blue light. "Thank you, Rain of Earth," and underneath it, written in childlike script, "Please, human, come back someday." Rain sat back, heart full, eyes quiet. Somewhere between the stars and memory, a human had changed an alien world, not with weapons, not with power, but with empathy. And as the stars stretched around him, he carried not just a report for Earth, but a lesson carved in light and grief and healing. Sometimes, even a planet just wants to be loved.